perfect. All right. Technical maven that I am, now I will mute myself, but we could just let you guys figure out. Carolyn, I went alphabetical when I sent the descriptions out to people, so if you wanted to start, that would be great.
Sure. First of all, it's really nice to virtually meet everybody. Good, we have this technology, we can see each other. And I'm happy to hear the stories of my fellow panelists. I think it's kind of interesting to see where people start in their education and then where it leads them on their career path. And I would say, for me, there's no way I could have predicted where I would have ended up. So basically, I went to Holy Cross, another fine Jesuit institution, and I was an English major. And when I graduated, honestly, really, if I look back to it, because I didn't know what to do, I went to law school and worked for a very large law firm in Manhattan when I graduated. I can say now it was a great formative experience. When I was doing it, I was pretty miserable. But it was a way to get a kickstart on your career, and Manhattan's exciting, and it was a good beginning. And then I moved to Syracuse. My husband is from Syracuse, and worked in federal court. It was a great job. Working for the government is an interesting opportunity. It's especially for the federal government. It's very different than working in private practice. And then I was home with children for a few years and went back and started at Incorporated. And when I started, I was only working 15 hours a week, which really suited my schedule. And I just started doing different things there. Peace is the community action agency for Onondaga County. I don't know if anybody's familiar with community action, but we just got lots of money on the CARES Act to help people recover from their current difficult situations. Yep, thanks for the support. But we do programs, we work with people living in poverty, try to get them to a point of self-sufficiency. And we do that by taking a strength-based approach. So it's programs like Head Start, Big Brothers Big Sisters, foster grandparents, a whole slate of senior programming, and family resource centers. And if people have more questions about that, I can answer it. But we're grant funded, so that's a different type of entity. And I guess I would say, thinking a little bit about this conversation we were going to have, one of the things that has helped me move forward are just the people that I interacted with. So even if I was in a position and at some point in time didn't think I was being fulfilled in that, I was doing something on the outside, maybe volunteer work or just something that I thought was fun that gave me some energy, and then that led me to something else. So there's lots of things that affect your career path other than the job you're currently in. How was that, Les? Anything else? Okay.
Emily, you were next in the alphabetical order.
I will go next. Beautiful, beautiful story. So I'm still relatively fresh into my professional career. I graduated from Lemoyne in 2018, as Professor Streisbooth said. I always did makeup on the side. I started doing that when I was a freshman in college. One of my best friends owned a salon, and she kind of helped me by bringing me along with her as she did weddings, and I would do the makeup, and it kind of grew into this awesome little side hustle that for a while I thought, maybe I'll just do that, but I had so many other things that I was passionate about. TV reporting appealed to me, writing appealed to me, music appealed to me. So I kind of had no idea where I was going to end up or what I was going to, end up doing at all. So I was totally that student that was constantly in the career advising office. I was always taking quizzes about, what career I should have and, what's meant for me, because I just had no idea. And the whole thing really stressed me out. And I just wanted to be successful. I wanted to be happy, and I couldn't picture my future. I had no idea where I was going to live or what I was going to be doing. So I was constantly there. And I think it was, if I didn't say, I was a communications major. I had 2 minors, one in marketing, one in entrepreneurship. So the fall semester of my senior year, Professor Streisbooth sent out a internship opportunity that was going to be in Syracuse for the summer after I graduated. And so I was like, that's perfect. It was just like a marketing internship. And I said, this might be a great opportunity for me to figure out what I want to do, get a little bit of experience. And so I applied for that and I got the internship. I was a little bit relieved. I was like, at least I have an internship now. Who knows what will come of it, but at least I have something after I graduate. Fast forward to May of my senior year, I went to a networking event at Lemoyne. I think it was the Frank Fernandez alumni dinner, which is always an awesome event. And I ended up running into a professor that I had my sophomore year, my entrepreneurship professor. And I ran up to him, we started talking, and he had actually left Lemoyne for a bit to work at this company called Assured Information Security in Rome, New York, where I happened to be from before I came to Lemoyne. I had no idea it existed. Turns out it's 2 minutes from my house. It's literally on the way to my high school where I went to school. I never noticed it. And so he was telling me all about this company and how amazing it was, and they have this awesome culture and they're doing this incredible work. And he was like, hey, they're also, hiring for a marketing associate if you're interested. And I said, I'm definitely interested. If you want to pass along my resume, that'd be awesome. I didn't expect to get the job or even really get an interview. I just kind of figured, might as well try. And so he did that for me. He passed along my resume to the person in the marketing department, and I ended up interviewing with them, and I ended up getting the job. And so I got the call that I got the job on a Friday. That Saturday, the next day, I was supposed to move back to Syracuse to start that internship on Monday. And so I remember calling Professor Streisbooth with tears in my eyes, trying to figure out how I was going to handle this situation, because I felt horrible. I had made a commitment to this internship, but this amazing opportunity that was full-time, opportunity came before me. And so I ended up obviously going with the job, the full-time position, and I contacted the internship people, and they were lovely and they understood. And I have been with AIS in Rome it'll be 2 years in June. I'm a communications associate there, so I do a lot of internal communication stuff. We have a company magazine that I run, lots of different recruiting techniques and things like that. A pretty well-rounded department, and I absolutely love it. And I would not have even known it would, existed if I didn't, take advantage of the resources that I had at Lemoyne, like this amazing networking event. And I worked so hard in my entrepreneurship class, and I had this connection with my professor. And I was constantly in that career advising department with, Professor Streisbooth and Christine Fahey. They helped me a lot. So I just kind of took advantage of everything that was at my disposal. And I'm super grateful that I did that, because I'm really happy with where I am right now. And who knows what the future will hold, because you just can't predict the future. And as the situation we're in now kind of goes to show that you can only plan for so much. So just try to be excited about the opportunities that are before you. That's my spiel.
Thank you, Emily. All right.
Yeah.
Camille Coley.
Hey, everybody. I wanted to say that I'm not just a big city girl. I actually spent 3 years in Syracuse as a child. My father did his residency at Syracuse Medical Health Center, so I know upstate. I went to Merida School, so I know where you all are.
I forgot about that. I forgot about that bigger connection. Wow.
In Onondaga County, yes.
Uh-huh.
Genesee Street, all of it. Yes, I know it all. So I was also a communications major in undergrad, and I didn't know what I wanted to do, and went home to my parents' house and applied for a job at the courthouse, and ended up clerking at the courthouse. And the judge took me underneath her wings and actually encouraged me to go to law school. So I applied to law school, got into law school, went to the University of Maryland, which was hometown school. And what I did in law school was I wanted to explore a lot of things and figure out what it was that I wanted to do. And that was, I did a clinical experience in an environmental clinic. I did an internship with a private firm in Baltimore, Maryland. And I did an internship at the Maryland Public Service Commission, which regulates all the utilities for the state of Maryland. And that job at the Public Service Commission was the one that appealed to me the most. And I ended up after graduating from law school, being hired as the special assistant to the commission. And so I wrote a lot, wrote and drafted a lot of the appellate decisions for the Public Service Commission. And while I was writing those decisions, one particular case came up, and that was a case where we were, I wouldn't say fighting against, but Maryland has very sensitive areas in the Chesapeake Bay, and they were trying to lay natural gas pipelines in the Chesapeake Bay. And so the Public Service Commission, the commissioners were not in favor of laying it in these sensitive areas. And so I defended an appellate case. And while I was at the Public Service Commission, one of the things that they make you do is this boot camp in Michigan every year. And so I went to Michigan over the summer and went to this boot camp, and had a whole bunch of regulators from around the country and kept in contact with them. And I didn't know how important this case was, but people were following it and watching what was going on in the state of Maryland. And one particular state was Florida. And the company that was trying to lay the pipeline was Colonial Pipeline, and we defeated them in Maryland. And I got a call from the governor's office in Florida and said, "We heard what you did in Maryland. Can you come down and consult for us?" I was like, "Hey, I don't have anything else to do. I'll come down and consult for you for a little while." So I went down to consult on the case in Florida. They ended up not laying pipe in Florida. Florida actually has some very stringent laws in terms of their beaches and coastline. And my point is, you never know who's watching you along the way. And so I ended up working on this case in Florida, which stood up against their no drilling policy. And I met a lot of people while I was working on this particular case, and ended up landing a job as the youngest administrator of the Florida Coastal Management Program, which deals with regulations and policy development along the coast. And so that job, I was there for about 6 years. And in that job, I started to grow into myself. I joined a lot of professional organizations, the National Coastal Society. I went to a lot of state conferences and national conferences. And at one particular conference, one of our large national conferences called Coastal Zone that happens every year, I met a group of people from Rhode Island, University of Rhode Island, which is a think tank in coastal management policy. And it was an interesting time. I'll have to share a story about the fact that this was the time that Jeb Bush was elected governor of the state of Florida, and he raided a lot of money from different places in the state. And my program was one of the programs that got raided in terms of funding. So I knew I needed to find a new job. But anyway, the people from Rhode Island were looking for a new coastal management policy person to manage their East Africa portfolio. And so I was interviewed for the job and was hired at the University of Rhode Island. And that was my first entree back from from working in public service for a long time, working with a state agency, going to work at a university. And I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the experience. I actually was at the University of Rhode Island, but I lived in East Africa for 4 years, and my stint in East Africa was bounded by two amazing or interesting events. One was the fact that I was there when the bombings happened in Dar es Salaam, and my mother was a nervous ninny, and she always was like, "Are you sure you want to be there? Are you sure you want to do this? You're very young. You don't have a family. What could happen?" But I overcame that and actually worked on a $15 million project that was funded by USAID. And that was my first experience in grant writing and that type of work, and working with a large federal agency. But about 4 years into it, that's when 9/11 happened. And my mother jumped in again and said, "Are you sure you want to be there? Don't you want to come home for a little while?" And I was a little bit tired at that point. And so came back to the States, and wasn't sure really kind of what I wanted to do at that point in terms of my career. I did stay in touch with a lot of colleagues from around the country, and particularly in Florida. And the secretary of the agency that I worked for previously in Florida called me and said, "Yeah, you want to come down to South Florida? I think I might know of a job for you at this university." And I was like, "Ah, I don't know if I want to do that, Jim." He's like, "I think you'll want to come down here." So ended up moving to South Florida and was hired by the Florida Atlantic University to stand up the first division of research for the university. And so we created an office of research management and research policy, research administration, started writing a lot of grants for the university. We actually created several centers. I actually worked as the co-director of one of the centers called the Southeast National Marine Renewable Energy Center. So plenty of opportunities in academia to do things that aren't just being a faculty member. I mean, that was one of my jobs. I actually did teach a few classes, but there are so many opportunities in academia that people don't think about when they think about, oh, you're going to college to go to school. That's not it. There's so much behind the running of a university, as some of you on this call know. So again, while I was in Florida, I was there at Florida Atlantic University for 15 years. Again, I reached out to my networks, joined a lot of trade organizations, the National Council for University Administrators and the Council for Government Relations, Society for Research Administrators. So my big clue to you all is, please reach out to these organizations. Many of them have fees for upcoming or recent graduates, and they're really willing to embrace people and lovely mentorship programs and just opportunities that I did not think about. Obviously, graduating from college, how important these organizations would be in my future career. So fast forward 15 years at Florida Atlantic University, we went through a couple of tumultuous years with a very bad president, and I started looking for a new job. When I started looking for the job, I reached out to a headhunter in New York, and actually I didn't get the first job that I applied to, but this headhunter kept me in her files, and this job at the American Museum of Natural History came up, and she called me and said, "Camille, I've got this job for you." Unfortunately, we had a new president at the university. Everything had settled down, and I was like, I'm in a great space. My quality of life is so good right now. I don't need a new job. And she let me hang up the phone that first day. And Lisa called me back the second day and said, "Camille, I just need you to read the job description." I said, "Okay, I'll read the job description." Read the job description, and I called and I called her back and I said, "Did you give them my resume and have them write this job description?" And ended up, obviously, I'm here at the American Museum of Natural History. My primary role here at the museum is fundraising, but on the government side, I do government work and international fundraising work for the museum. So my next tip for you all is explore building relationships with recruiters. There are plenty of recruiters in all sorts of fields, and just go on the internet and look them up and reach out to them, and shoot them your resume. Set up a call with them, have some conversations. They can lead you to places that you would never expect to be. And my final bit of information is, if you have another passion, pursue that. So I still kept my legal work in my back pocket, and I'm a certified mediator and arbitrator and mediate cases. I wouldn't say for fun. I do it because it's a passion of mine, and I love to give back to the community. So that's my story.
See, I didn't want to try to encapsulate any of that. You guys are telling amazing, beautiful stories. So our final story is Mr. McFadden. You're going to be good. Are you kidding?
All right, so I'm from New York City, born and raised, and going to Lemoyne wasn't ideal for me. Like, I was actually forced to go to Lemoyne by my father because I wanted to go to Howard University. So that was like the vision I had for myself, going to Howard, working in marketing. And I always knew I wanted to work in the music or sports industry. Like with my family, I was privy to the entertainment industry. Like a lot of people from my family worked in either music or sports or television. So I always knew I wanted to work in that. What I wanted to do specifically, I genuinely had no idea up until my senior year of college. Like if you would have just asked me, I would have just said, I want to work in music or sports. That's really all I knew. I was a pretty good writer. I wrote in high school and in college, but one piece of advice I would have is to always like look forward. And I knew that the newspaper and magazine industry wasn't lucrative. It wasn't a realistic career path for me after college. So just while at Lemoyne, just always in Professor Streisbel's office, always with Professor Reed, just trying to figure out the next step. I truly had no clue. Doing a bunch of internships, nothing really stuck. Like I did a production internship at a news station. And basically what I did know was that whatever I did, I wanted it to be big, you know? Like I said, coming from my family, coming from New York City, I knew Lemoyne was temporary, and I also knew that I didn't know what I wanted to do specifically, but I knew it had to kind of fit my interests, which was music, sports, pop culture, fashion, basically cool shit. That's what I wanted to do, and I wanted to work in. So senior year, like I said, a bunch of internships not sticking, and I think I could have done a lot more at Lemoyne. Like it wasn't until I got to Newhouse where I actually gave my all to everything. Like at Lemoyne, I was really just focused on school. Like I said, a couple not that the best internships here and there, but I wasn't like involved in anything at Lemoyne. Like I did the newspaper maybe the first 2 years, and that was it. I did social media for the Dolphin, which was like me being lazier and not writing articles anymore. It's like, okay, I'll just post on the articles already. So I didn't do much at Lemoyne in my time here, to be honest. Like when I look back, I learned a lot because from not doing so much, I knew that the next opportunity that I had to like give it my all, because for 4 years, I basically just went to class and went back to my dorm room. So anyway, senior year, I meet Professor Reed, who's an advertising professor at Lemoyne. And he kind of had like the big picture kind of stuff. Like he could show us, now in class, we're talking about like Nike and ads, like Pepsi, like current stuff. And this was more interesting. And I actually didn't even take an advertising class with him, ironically. I took his PR class. And, you know, being vulnerable, using your resources. I spent a lot of time in Professor Streisbel's and Professor Reed's office, just telling them, you know, I don't know what my next step is, and I'm worried, and I know that I'm destined to do something great, but I just don't know. Thank God for Professor Reed and the communications department. He pointed me in the direction of Newhouse, which is, you know, the top advertising school in the country, right down the block from Lemoyne. And that's kind of like what I was looking for, like that big name. Like I felt somewhat marginalized coming from the city, being at Lemoyne, which kind of speaks to my lack of effort. So he knew what he was doing by telling me about Syracuse, and I got a recommendation letter from Professor Streisbel and Professor Reed. So thank you guys so much. Anyway, I honestly, like, I had like some self-doubt that year. Like I said, being a senior, having the expectations for my life that I had all along, and being in that predicament, like that little post-winter break before I applied to Newhouse slot, like I was struggling. Like I didn't know anything. Anyway, thank the Lord. I did not think I was going to get in, but I got in Newhouse. Went to Newhouse, and that's when I kind of like just unleashed all my potential. Stopped just caring about classwork and going home. Like just saying yes to everything. Really taking heed to all that advice that was in a class Professor Reed had called Trial by Fire, where basically we had a guest speaker come in every day, every class, and like just tell us about their career path and advice. Like that was literally a class my senior year. Best class ever. I sat in that class. I took so many notes, you know, listening actively and just envisioning myself with the opportunity to like, you know, apply everything I learned and, you know, to finally get out of class and like do some like real shit. So I was super excited. Newhouse was great. Like I said, I did anything I could be. I went from like, I probably wasn't even one of the most notable students in the communications department. You know, it's probably a bunch of students you thought of before me just because I wasn't involved in anything. Like I said, so I went from that to like basically being a Newhouse advertising ambassador. Like I'll speak on the panels, give the tours for the prospective students, all that shit. So I went like really hard at Newhouse, and I had an amazing time there. And then I applied for an internship at 360i, which is a top 10 advertising agency, like just period across the world. By that time, I kind of was confident that I would get in because I had the Newhouse connection. So then it was like, I was fine by then. So then, yeah, I applied to 360i, got in social marketing. And so as an intern, still say yes to everything, still just really wanted, like, I want to be successful. Even right now, like being in, like I have C-suite aspirations and just like to really like take over. So I kind of came in with that mentality as an intern, and I worked on a Bravo account. So Bravo TV, like I said, I was interested in music, sports and stuff. So I didn't know anything about reality TV and all the housewives and stuff, but completely got immersed into that world, threw myself in there. Was the first intern to get a job offer. It just goes to show how impactful classes like Trial by Fire and all those trips to Professor Streisand's office was. They wanted me to be on 2 accounts there. I mean, at 360i, it's just been so much. Like, it's crazy looking back at how much has happened in the last year because, I mean, Professor Streisand could speak to it. I literally didn't do anything at Lemoyne. So in my time at 360i, I've been on Bravo and Champion. Those are my 2 accounts, so 2 different worlds. So much work across the 2. I started a newsletter because I came in with like a real grasp on pop culture, you know, being Black, being from the city. I am always going to kind of bring that aspect wherever I go. So just bringing so many memes and pop culture stuff to the Bravo account. They had the VP asked me to start a newsletter. So now I started a newsletter at 360i for everyone internally and all our clients to like stay up to date on everything trending in pop culture and on social. So yeah, we do that every day. So I started the newsletter, joined the culture committee. So I like throw events like post Super Bowl, hangover brunch. So like a lot of event planning, which I never saw in my future. Joining a Black employee resource group. So I run their social. Newhouse and 360i, like they have a good connection. Syracuse and 360i. My supervisor was fired, so she couldn't lead that communication anymore. So I revamped the program, hosted a workshop with Newhouse students at 360i. Right before Corona, I had started something on my high school, which is a huge career goal of mine, to open up the door for like advertising and stuff like that to students and kids from where I'm from in the city, you know, people that look like me. So I had started this student workshop day for my high school. So much planning, so much approvals that need to get done, all that stuff. And it was supposed to be on Monday, the Monday before they close everything down because of Corona. So that's unfortunate, but just been super busy at 360i. And yeah, I work on Champion and Bravo. So anything you see on social for them, it was me. And yeah.
So Amari, thank you. I just want to talk about, Amari was in, the first time I met Amari was in, when he was a freshman in my public speaking class.
Literally first class, 9th.
And probably the rest, you know, some of the others would say the same, but Amari, even as a freshman, was like, this is what I'm going to do. And I was thinking to myself, well, I'm not sure how, because right now I'm just trying to get you to come to class. You know, I mean, you came to class, but you had this vision. And I think one of the questions that everybody, the 4 of you could answer talking about vision, you know, some of our students have a very clear vision, right? And they know what they want to do, and some are not as clear. So can the 4 of you talk about this idea of what do you think you should be doing, or how did you find that vision? And maybe also, for those of us who have been working a little longer, how that vision changes and when you know that the vision should change. And I'll let you guys just kind of.
I mean, I'm off mute already, so I guess I'll go. In terms of vision, you know, I think nothing is set in stone. Like, you guys are still in college. So right now is the time to be figuring that stuff out. And if you are a senior, you know, so you may not have as much time. I think whatever you want to do, whatever you're interested in, you need to have some supporting evidence, you know. Since I left college and like got to 360, I was like, everything needs to be you need to have a rationale for everything. So whatever you want to do, you know, seriously take some time and think about your vision and, you know, what you want from yourself or any opportunity. And then once you have that, you need to have supporting evidence because, you know, if you speak to someone who's legit, which, you know, at a certain point you won't be a student anymore. And, you know, when you say stuff, you need to have tangible stuff to back it up. So I wanted to work in social media. You know, I knew I was good at social. That's all I knew. I was just a student doing bare minimum, but I knew I needed some supporting evidence because I can't keep going around telling everyone I'm good at social and having nothing to show for it. So I created a page, and that ended up being an experience I never even knew I needed 2 years later when I had a career in social. When I was just a random interest of mine in college. So whatever you're passionate about or you want to be your reality in a few years, you need to be actively working towards it and having something to show for it. So yeah, and that way when you're testing out and, you know, experimenting with things, that way your vision may change, but at least you know. So that would be like my main advice. Like whatever you like have something to show for it. Because if not, people are just not gonna take you like seriously. Like even me, like if we talk after this and you told me you want to work in advertising and we start having a conversation and I realized that, you know, you can tell who's serious or not. So whatever your vision is, be serious about it and work towards it and have something to show for it. Because if not, you know, if you don't start, you're not going to get anywhere.
I was going to start by saying that I always envied the people who knew what they wanted to be at the end of the game, the people that went the straight route, that knew at 5 years old they wanted to be a doctor and they were, you know, taking hearts out of frogs on the side of the road and, you know, bandaging up the other children and doing those types of things. And I was never that kid. I was who said, well, I like that today and I like this the next day. And, you know, having a vision is one thing, but being able to combine not just one passion, but multiple passions is something that I think is very important. So it was, you know, my ability right now to write and express and be creative comes out through my proposal development writing. My ability to work internationally, you know, works because I'm at the museum and the work that we do is international, and that's another passion of mine, and traveling is another passion of mine. So I'm able to put all of those things together in one package. So I guess my point to you about the vision is it's not just one direct route, that there are multiple layers that you can put on top of each other to make you the person that you are, to express yourself and get to who you are as a person, and create your personality.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. I am still looking to have a vision like Amari has. I don't think I ever got to that point, but I think your vision can also be do the next exciting thing, right? So I think Camille talked a lot about there was an opportunity, somebody suggested it, and she took a chance on it. And Emily mentioned that too. You know, there was an internship opportunity, but then she met somebody at a networking event, you know? So that's a type of vision too, to think of taking a step in a direction because that step sounds good to you. And if you have the big vision, that's great. But I think until you get there, you know, doing the next exciting thing can work.
I definitely agree with all of that. I think that your vision for your life is something that is going to be constantly evolving. And, you know, when companies create visions, they change often because different things are happening in your life. And your vision can be multiple things, as Camille was saying. Like, I still do freelance makeup. It shifted a little bit to, you know, match my workload, but makeup is still something that I love and that I'm able to do. And I work for a company that supports that. So your vision is going to change. And I think the biggest game changer for me when I was thinking about, you know, my vision for my life was that I was constantly stressed and I was so anxious about what my vision was. And the moment that I stopped being stressed about what I was going to do and started getting excited about the opportunities, I could see much more clearly everything that was in front of me because I was excited about it. So I was saying yes to things, and I was looking forward to things, and I was meeting people, and I was discussing, you know, future plans instead of being in my room Googling, like, what should I be when I grow up? And, you know, trying to, you know, my brain was just clouded with stress. So try to be excited about the possibilities instead of just suffocated by the unknown, because you have an amazing foundation. You're getting an amazing education. You have so many resources available to you. And if you could just get excited about creating that vision, knowing that it's going to change, things are going to constantly be shifting in your life, I think that you'll be able to create that vision with much more clear vision for your life. And it's super exciting. So try to just be excited about the opportunities.
So I asked the first question, but it'd be great. And I will say that we're getting close to the end of your time, but I kind of thought it would maybe go till 5. Is everybody okay if it goes a little bit beyond 4:45? You have to go? You have to go?
Yeah, I can do the 5.
Perfect. Okay. So questions from the audience, the other listeners.
I'll give you one. So I'd like to hear from the panelists about what they're hearing from inside of your organization about hiring in this weird season, and you know, how you are recruiting differently, if you were using virtual tools to do interviews, that kind of thing.
Yeah, thank you for asking that question because I was hoping I could slip this in. This is obviously a difficult time filled with so many unknowns, and for the students graduating in the midst of this, I'm really feeling for all of them. Nonprofits are getting some additional funding right now from a variety of sources. So that could be one place to look. We are thinking about creating a 2-year fellows program. Those fellowships are a nice opportunity because, you know, they're kind of set opportunities, and you can try something and then move on to something else. If you're thinking about maybe graduate school, it's nice to get a little work experience. And so we will be hiring. We are doing it all remotely.
I was going to say the same thing. We are unfortunately on a hiring freeze right now. We are doing intake for some of our education programs. The museum is one of 2 in the world, the only one in the Northern Hemisphere that has a graduate school. So we confer PhDs and master's degrees from the museum. So we're doing interviews for those students and bringing those students in. However, our regular hiring process is on freeze right now. But I was on a conference call today, and it looks like you know, we will be opening our doors back up in midsummer. So I would expect that midsummer that we would start hiring again at the museum. A lot of the medium to larger size institutions in New York City are in the same boat that we are right now. I did hear today, I mean, I think you all heard that the Met has furloughed a lot of people. The WCS, which runs the zoos and the Arboretum, they are not hiring their seasonal employees because they think their season is going to be a lot shorter. So I wouldn't give out all hope. My point is that I think as soon as everybody gets their footing in a few weeks, I think that you'll see more opportunities for employment.
I definitely agree. At AIS, we're definitely hiring. We are always hiring. It's for engineers mostly because we do commercial work, but a lot of the work that we're doing is for the government. So the government is still working and they need cybersecurity services and support and technologies. And so that's what we're offering to them. And but I actually just had an interview at 3 before this for someone to join the marketing team. So we're really fortunate that we are in a position where we're still able to hire. We're still, you know, doing business as usually as we can. We had our first Zoom interview, which was kind of fun. And we also, my team worked on an entire COVID-19 page for all of our employees, with everything from staying entertained in quarantine to our emergency sick leave policy, how to effectively recruit during this thing. So we have a lot of cool things in place, and I feel really fortunate to work for a company that has a really strong footing in a situation like this. So we are hiring.
360i is not hiring, unfortunately. Yeah, a lot of stuff is being on freeze right now, and it's a lot going on in the advertising industry. We're particularly being impacted by this, where all the holding companies every day, you know, if you following all of like Adweek and Ad Age and stuff, our publications, a lot of holds all on freeze, at least in New York City. Like the business is taking a huge effect. So it should be like that for a few more months.
Thanks, everybody. That was really informative. Thanks.
No problem.
Other questions that you all have?
Yeah, I had one. Just in regards to the whole interview process for getting these jobs, like what suggestions do you have, like do's and do nots, I guess?
Definitely do an insane amount of research. Like I probably, had like 2 or 3 pages worth of Google Docs, just notes. And it's just good to have, you know, just copy and paste, write it down. It's not like a test or anything. Just to kind of have that knowledge of the company's history, current news, you know, just a simple Google search, 360i news. I know everything that happened in the last 2 months, you know, in the advertising industry, like knowing clients and stuff like that. So basically, you wanna know everything in there. Like there shouldn't be any like pauses or like you want to be as prepared as possible. You also have a lot clearer mind knowing that you know there's not a particular topic or two you might get tripped up on. So definitely know everything that you can about them. Like do an insane amount of research to, you know, leave that type of impression on your interviewers. And on top of that, have a story and have like your brand that you want to communicate regardless of what questions are thrown at you. Like before I even went in there, I knew like, okay, for the new house interview is like, all right, what can I really say? I have pretty good grades and I go to school 10 minutes away. Like, why would they accept me? So I had to come in there with a story and basically like pitch yourself as a brand. Like, what do you want to represent? Even though I didn't have many tangible things to show for it, I had some internships, not really much that applicable. So my brand was very important. What do I want them to think about me and what do I envision for myself? So I came in there like I'm adaptable, I'm diverse. Coming from the city, I feel like, you know, I'll be able to prosper in any environment you guys put me in. I'm a listener. I like to understand, notice trends, all that stuff. So all that stuff I was telling them about me, regardless of how the interview went, I had that spiel practice, like, you know, and you're talking about yourself. So I definitely think that heavy research, heavy research, you owe it to yourself to do that, to be as prepared as possible, and then to also know your story, because that's really what it comes down to when people are making a decision on who to hire. Do I like you? Can I vibe with you? Like, do you seem like a good person, a hard worker? And coming out of college, a lot of times we won't have many things to show for, you know? We've been students the last 4 years. So at least come in and be the best version of yourself.
And to add to that, I would say that I work in a very traditional organization, so cover letters are still really important. Don't just write a cover letter that says, I read about your job advertisement in the New York Times and I want to apply. I think I'm a good candidate. Use that opportunity, as Mari was saying, to tell them kind of what you know about the company and how you would fit into the work that they've described in the job description, and read that job description, digest that job description, and try as hard as you can to understand what they're looking for. In addition to knowing about the company, is find out as much as you can about the culture of the company and reach out to people to see if you know anybody who's worked there, or go on LinkedIn to see who's worked there and what they're doing and how they're doing it. Even go on, as my children call it, the Facebook with you old people. Find wherever it is that you can find people that are in that working environment, so you can find out what it's like to be in that space and to see if you as a person would fit into that culture, but also to explain yourself to the hiring authority, how you would fit into that culture.
I definitely agree. You definitely want to do your research about whatever the company is that you're interviewing at. You need to bring your resume. You need to look as nice as you can, and you need to be confident. Even if you're nervous, I always just fake it till you make it, because they don't know how you feel. So try to be as confident as you can, and remember that you're interviewing them just as much as they're interviewing you. So you want to find out about the company, what it's like to work there, what their favorite parts are about working at that company. Don't be afraid to ask those questions, because you're going to end up working there. And if you want to enjoy your job, you want to find out about who they are as people, what the values of the company are, if they align with your values, what the job is going to entail, because the job description, you do want to be familiar with it, but try to ask questions about what the day-to-day, operations of that job are going to look like, and how it, ties into the rest of the team, and what the vision for that role is in the future. So don't be afraid to ask questions to them as well, is my biggest advice. Find out as much as you can about that company and the job.
Just to add to that real quick about asking questions is definitely like so important, because just period in life, we should always have questions prepared. It shows that you care, and then by asking questions, you also begin to actively listen, because you ask the question, so you're actually super engaged in listening. So yeah, it just makes for better conversation. Gives you time to think, collect your thoughts, and gives them the ball. Let them speak for a little bit, and it makes it more conversational. You don't want them to just be grilling you and, okay, here's my answer, here's your question. No, make it a conversation. That goes to the aspect of, when you leave, are you personable? Did I enjoy my time with you? And questions are definitely a huge aspect of that. And also what Emily said just about practicing all your answers, like, yeah, you kind of know what to expect, kind of, There's a way to prepare, so you really got to rehearse before interviews. It's like your one shot, really, so.
And I will add to this. So Basir, I know that you're thinking about graduate school. You have to interview sometimes for graduate school as well. So any of this advice that you're getting is going to be part of the admissions process for graduate school. And instead of the cover letter, your personal statement is going to be even more important and Abby, you were thinking about graduate school. That's going to be you being able to take all of the expertise that has been shared here and put that into your personal statement for graduate school. That's going to make a difference. Carolyn, did you want to add anything to any of that?
I felt like people, covered it. I would just agree that you want to be genuine. People can see through it if you're not. But like I think Emily said, be the best version of yourself, but try to answer honestly.
So we are, yeah, and that, Basir, that was a good question. I mean, and it's one that you kind of think, oh, well, but actually look at the answers that we got from this. And there's sort of a universal guide to interviewing. So it is 5, and I want to, or 4:59. So I want to be, aware of people's time limits. I, of course, could keep doing this forever, but that I think that If any of the students in the class have any other questions, they can email them to me, and I can share those with the people who so generously gave their time. I can't tell you all, this was just so much fun for me. And I also want to say, and I think RJ can probably back this up, but everything that we talk about in career advising was just like put into titanium with this last hour. That's all I want to say. Like everything that we say is what all these beautiful people just said in really wonderful ways. So, whoo.
Also want to thank you, Leslie. Like you guys, I don't know if you guys know how amazing she is, but
I think I do. No.
I do.
I'm gonna give back. I'm gonna still be immersed in the Lemoyne community as an alumni, and that's because of her and Professor Reed. So I just thank you so much for contributing to my growth, and it's just like an honor to even be speaking to you like in my own home because
Oh,
I know you contributed to it, you know. So appreciate you so much, and guys, listen to her because I mean, you see us. She knows what she's talking about. We learned from her.
Amari, you're doing the right
Ditto,
job.
ditto
because-
for sure.
Oh, you guys are wonderful. But truly, thank you to Camille Coley, Emily Canarelli, Carolyn Brown, and Amari McFadden. You guys really offered some great stories, a lot for us to think about. This class that these students are taking, this reinforces everything that we've talked about in the class. So I really appreciate that. And I hope everybody keep safe. And I hope everybody has a wonderful, wonderful evening. And I will see, hopefully, well, some of you I will see sooner rather than later. But I really enjoyed this time with you all, and I thank you. So take care.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you
Thank
so much for
you.
having us.
Thanks, Leslie.
Folks.
All right,
Good luck
take
to
care,
everybody.
Bye.
Yeah, good luck.
Good luck.
Thank you guys. That was really interesting.